started.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Zoom chat with three business professionals. My name is Tanya Deutscher, and my husband and I, Jay, he's also on here, he's moderating the chat. We own the Visual Identity Vault in Fairmont, Minnesota, and for the team in St. Peter, we do promotional items, graphic design, shirts, anything of that nature. I'd like to introduce our three professionals today. Julie Fredrickson. She resides just outside of Mankato and works with small businesses all over the Midwest to optimize their online presence for customer-centric value, audience growth, and engagement. She is the Executive Director of Fre Consulting. Tyler Grosskreitz has been building websites since 2011. He graduated from Minnesota State University, Mankato in 2013 and has owned Hedgehog Advertising since 2014. Tyler spends his time telling the stories of businesses and organizations that he consults with through websites and graphics. Chris Willert has over 20 years in the insurance and finance industry. He has the knowledge and experience as well as a straightforward process and approach to help you better understand your coverage options, whether that be for business, auto, home, life insurance, and more. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to turn this over to Julie Fredrickson, and she can go ahead and do her spiel, and then we'll have a few minutes at the end for Q&A for her, and that's kind of how we'll do everyone today, and then there will be some time at the end if anyone has additional questions. Thanks, Julie.
Good morning. All right, so I had actually reached back out to Tanya when she asked me to do this to get some feedback on what exactly people are hoping to learn about. A lot seemed to pop up about going live and the different ways that you can go live. So I'm going to go ahead and try to...
Oh, I need to stop sharing mine, sorry.
Nope, you're just fine. I'm going to steal it from you. All right, you should be looking at Facebook now. Is that right? So let's talk a little bit about going live on Facebook, because that's kind of where it started, right? So why we go live would seem to be the primary question. And the reason is that the engagement is huge. So I'm going to explain why that is. Your typical post on your business page reaches your followers, hopefully. The more it is engaged with, the more it will show to the rest of your followers and then possibly their connections. The kind of key for a regular post is to post at the right time of day so that it will potentially reach your followers who are online. So here we're looking at a business page, and this is back in the Insights. So if you're on a desktop and you go into your business page, up at the top should be Insights. Sometimes it's in this More box. You click on Insights and you go down to this left-hand menu and go to Posts. You can take a look at what is an overview of your followers. So these are people who follow or like your page. This is how many of those people are online on Facebook, not necessarily on your page, but these are people who are on Facebook and the average each day. So an average of this page's followers of 757 of them reach Facebook each day. Down here then, per day, you can see there's kind of a time frame here. There's a timeline, 3 a.m. to 9 p.m. And if you kind of hover over each day, you can see when most of them are on. On Wednesdays, a lot of them are on about 7 o'clock. Again, I want to reiterate that this isn't that they're on their page. They're just on Facebook. So 6, 7, probably 5, 6, 7 on Wednesdays is an ideal time for this page to make a post, to get the best chance of their followers to see the post so that those followers can then like or comment, which will make more people see the post. I'm trying not to get too much in the weeds there, but I hope that makes sense. So that's a regular old post, right? The thing about going live is that once you go live, Facebook dings you right up here in notifications or on your phone and says, hey, so-and-so is live, this page is live, this friend is live. Facebook does us an advantage that way. So they will actually notify everyone and say they're live, and people just out of curiosity will go look whether it applies to them or not. Even if they're only on there for a couple seconds, they might like the whatever you're talking about. They might engage with it somehow. Or even if they come on, it shows as a viewer. All of that is engagement to Facebook. So it's really ideal for you to go live for quite a while. 15 minutes is probably a good place to start even. A talk like this is a good one to go live with because you might get quite a few engagements. Now, once you are done going live, that will post to your page, and it will post already with way more engagement than you would have had if you had just recorded that video and posted it. It takes a lot more work to get that one out there. You might have to run an ad. You might have to boost that post in order to get the same amount of engagement as you would have if you had done that video live. Why do people have that curiosity? A, they want to support you if they're a supporter of yours. B, I just feel like people think they'd rather see humans than something super polished and perfect. That's just kind of where we are today. People want, this is such a buzzword, but they want people to be authentic, or authenticity is huge. So we've talked about reach. How do you go live? Facebook is pretty self-explanatory. If you go up to where you would make a post, it's pretty self-explanatory on how to go live on Facebook. I do want to talk real quick about other platforms and how you would go live there. LinkedIn is one that's become very popular. Certain business professionals are trying to grow their network even more so online or on LinkedIn. And you may notice more and more that people are going live on LinkedIn. But how do you do that? You don't really see it when you go to make a post. You actually do have to apply to go live on LinkedIn. So you would just go into the help section on LinkedIn, and this is an application. If you just search for LinkedIn Live Broadcasting, this application form will come up, and you have to submit it and see if you're approved to go live. They aren't real clear about who or why they choose certain people. It's just kind of how it is. On YouTube, on the other hand, if I go to YouTube here, it's super easy. The same place, if you are on YouTube, the same place where you click that little camera with the plus sign on it up here, which will load at some point, with the same place that you go to post a video is the same place where you would go live. You go ahead and click go live there. And I can't show you super easily on desktop because it's not made for desktop, but Instagram is actually a little tricky as well if you haven't done it. Instead of hitting that plus sign where you would go to make a post, you actually go up to the camera in the left-hand corner, which is the icon for Instagram, and click on that and you slide over to live. Those are different platforms you can go live. Now, somebody also asked, there's so many places where we can go live. How do we choose? What should we do? We're trying to do it all. Well, personally, and this is coming from someone who's starting a weekly webinar myself, even soon here on Monday, I would start with where you have the best following and grow from there. Tyler, who's coming up next, and I actually had a nice conversation, and he had mentioned that he had seen a Twitch influencer talk about how you shouldn't really invest a lot of money and things into something that hasn't started yet. So go ahead and do it. Just do it. You can add from there. Start on the platform where you have the best following and go from there. You can use Zoom, which is a pretty cheap platform. Tyler earlier mentioned in a conversation here that OBS is an option that you can stream from if you're going to use graphics or if you want to talk with other people and go live. Now, I saw Tanya put the question, can you go on multiple platforms? And you can. There is a cost to it. So there is a possibility to stream live to multiple platforms. There are, oh goodness, Switchboard, Live Stream, Caster, which is C-A-S-T-R, and many others. There's many platforms out there. It really kind of depends on whether you're just trying to feed from one place to another, whether you actually want to use that platform and broadcast to create the video, whether you want multiple people on the video. It really depends, and the cost can range anywhere from $20 to $30 a month to $100 and up, because frankly, live TV stations use these platforms. One other question I wanted to touch on real quick, because everybody's always asking me it, and it came up in that email that she sent me. There are multiple places too where you can schedule your posts. Again, there might be a cost with some of them. Places like Hootsuite, we use Sendable, Plan with 2 N's, and for Pinterest, Tailwind is ideal. But most people don't know, and I'm going to show you real quick, that Facebook actually has a creator studio where you can create posts and schedule them. It's just at business.facebook.com/creator studio. you can actually do Facebook or Instagram here, and Instagram seems to be the one that people have trouble finding a good platform to send to. So just know that that is there. Tanya was okay with me mentioning, I kind of mentioned that I'm starting a webinar this, actually I'm calling it a video cast, this Monday. It will be starting every Monday at 2 p.m. I will be having guests on. It will always be topics catered towards helping the small business owner or professional. I will probably be talking, every few weeks on marketing and social media. Next week, the 18th, it will be a talk about remote working. A lot of us are newly working from home, and just considering the security issues that might come with that with your internet connection. But it's called Monday Matters, and it's on my Facebook page. It will be going live at Fre Consulting. Was there any questions? I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here. Was there any questions that anybody had?
The one that I saw posted, you addressed, Julie.
Perfect. Well, if I know me, I probably went over my minutes anyway. So are we ready for Tyler, Tanya? Does that work?
Sure thing. Thanks, Julie.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, let me see how well this works to share it off of this screen.
While Tyler's doing that, Julie, did you say that those classes will be on your page or your business page?
They will be on my Facebook business page. They will be live on Facebook.
Okay, thanks.
I don't think that's what I need to share there. Sorry. Are you guys seeing my presentation? Yes. Okay, good.
Yes.
So I'm going to start with a very basic question. Why do I need a website? Websites, especially now, that we're stuck at home largely, and potentially if we see some sort of second wave where we have to retreat back to this, it acts as a visual virtual storefront. It acts as a business, your business in a way that a brick and mortar store might just not allow you due to external circumstances. It's also a passive salesperson, and it can fulfill extended business needs. And we'll talk about what that means here in some follow-up slides. So one of the biggest questions I get is, what do I use for a website? What are my options? So there's a lot of options in terms of building a website. And I feel that you should be providing a solution to meet a problem, not a solution to, because that's what I build. I build X type of website, or I build Y type of website. That becomes a problem in the solution. So I have some examples here of WordPress, Squarespace, Drupal, Spotify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, Magento, and some custom HTML websites, and they all serve their own individual purposes. You'll notice that I don't have Wix, Weebly, Web.com, these DIY builders that promise you can build a beautiful website in an hour, because really what you're building in an hour is dog poop that functions like a broken arm. Like they're not great website builders in my mind. There are applications for them. There are situations for those website builders. I would argue that they are closer to 1 in a billion than 1 in the normal. They don't provide a ton of value to a business other than they're inexpensive. They allow you to get up information on the web that says, here's who we are, what we do, how to contact us with a form. And often it doesn't even look good to provide that information, just because they're complicated and they're not as user friendly as advertised. So I tend to leave those off of something like this in terms of options. What things should I be considering prior to building a website? The first and foremost is you should have a visual identity. And most people would call this branding. I look at branding as everything you're doing with a business, not just the visual material. Branding is how you and I are interacting in this moment. You're forming an opinion about my business that doesn't have anything to do with the visual material associated with my business necessarily. So a visual identity system, I would say, is critical because it is like trying to build a house without a foundation if you don't have something like that in mind. A marketing plan is a solid second step to go with from this. If you don't have goals, you don't know who your customer personas are, like a typical customer, it's going to be difficult to determine how somebody would be using your website without knowing who's going to use your website. Sorry, I'm trying to. What are the very basics of a website? At the very least, you should have a home page, an about page, a contact page with some information like hours, a contact form. If you have a physical location, doesn't have a physical location, but an address where somebody could reach you, and some social media links, because I always argue for not putting social media right at the top of the page, because you've likely, one of your goals with your social media campaign is likely to get people to your website, right? So if you put it at the top of your page, you're saying, hey, come to my website. Now let's send you back to my social media. And then you're running your customers in circles. So I think it's critical to have it, but I think it's something that belongs lower on the page. And one other thing to consider in terms of what you want to do with your website, because most websites should have more than the very basic of who you are, what you do, and how to contact us, is determining the value of the website. And this goes back to the marketing plan, because you're determining goals for your business, for your website, for a lot of the things you're doing in your business. The simplest equation that I use for determining the value of a website is the lifetime customer value divided by the form completions times a percentage of customers that actually become into customers. So let's take it out of a 5th grade word problem and make it more tangible and easier to understand. So let's say the lifetime customer value. When a customer spends money with your business, they spend $1,000 with your business. So the number of times that they, let's say of the people that complete your form in this very simplistic website, the number of people that complete your form is 10, and every month, and the percent of people that of those 10 that turn into actual business is 50%. So I should have written this out so I had the actual math ahead of me, but so that would be your actual lifetime value of your website is 5 times 10 would be 50%, times 10 would be 5, times 1,000 would be $5,000 a month. If that's what indeed the numbers were. I mean, that can be a very low number to a lot of businesses, and that can be a very high number in terms of monthly income for value through a website. So when you're thinking about spending $10 a month for a Wix website or a Weebly website, these inexpensive DIY builders, and you let's say your website is valued at $500 a month. Well, that's $7,200 a year, if my math is correct. So you're not adequately allocating the correct funds to invest into your website when you're undervaluing the cost into it, because you could be leaving money on the table by people seeing a poorly designed website with a bad user flow that people just don't trust, right? So each of those things has value. So what are some common functionalities that you might use for achieving these things? When did I start, Tanya? Where am I going to go over here at some point? Okay, you're on mute.
You're good yet.
Okay.
Keep going.
A facts page. I like adding frequently asked questions because although people don't often read, the 3 people that do read, that go to your facts page and want to know the answers to these commonly asked questions, it eliminates some overhead and gives them the answers quickly and efficiently the way they can get it quickly and easy to themselves. Like if I can find an answer without bugging somebody, I'm going to do it. And that's the mindset I'm trying to bring to a website. It also adds some SEO value if you have specific key terms that can be added to those pages. Blogging, and blogging gets kind of a bad rap because it's tedious. It can be a lot of work. People don't always want to do it, but great blog content, I would say, doesn't have to be that way. I would say like Julie's series would be excellent blog content, right, Julie? Because you're going to create it every week, and it would be real cost effective to have a virtual assistant transcribe the content into text that makes it searchable to search engines, and then you're creating content doing something that you find interesting and fun instead of, oh God, what am I going to write about now? Some service information is a very key piece of information, telling people what you're doing, especially if you're in the service industry. Focusing more on product information would be helpful as an alternative if you're not in a service-based industry. And deals and promotions have a tendency to it updates your website often, so your website never gets stale. You're adding new content. People know that they have a reason to come back to your website. And some more advanced features might include like an appointment creation. If you're a lawyer, an inspector, your consulting-based business might benefit an incorporation into your calendar that allows you to create appointments and not have to set up so many of those by hand. There's a couple people in our BNI group that use appointment creation through a third-party website, and I'm going to blank on what it's called, but it works really well. And the system sends out reminders to the people that set up so that they don't forget and not show up. E-commerce, I skipped to the last slide, but e-commerce would be another one. Time cards, career section, hiring people through your website is a good use for it. Newsletter signups and using a website to drive people to your brick and mortar store like Home Depot does. So you can, on Home Depot, you can order a product and pick it up in the store if that were something that is viable to your business. That's a good use of combining those two mentalities. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Tyler? I will put up a slide at the end that has everyone's contact information. So if you have questions after the fact for Julie, Tyler, or Chris, you'll be able to get a hold of them as well.
One thing I did want to add, I apparently didn't throw it in my presentation, is that a website is not a field of dreams. If you build it, they will not come. Even if your name is Google, Facebook, they've all spent money and years and time advertising to get people to their website. And these days, you can piggyback off of their efforts in advertising, but there's also effort for you to be ranked well in search engine optimization for Google and Bing and Yahoo. And there's work from social media standpoint, driving customers to your website from your social media posts. So just keep in mind that a website is not an end all be all.
Thank you, Tyler. All right, we'll turn it over to Chris.
All right, good morning, everybody. One moment here while I share my screen. All right, so first of all, just real quick, a little bit more about me. 20 plus years in the financial and insurance world. I opened this agency in January, actually, of last year. I have 7 years actual insurance, but new agency itself was the Farmers District 4 New Agency of the Year. We do commercial and business as well as personal lines. This is important because it kind of explains how I'm going to run through some things here in a couple of minutes, but I'm going to explain things in a way you understand. I don't expect everybody out there to understand insurance terminology. And quite frankly, if it sounded like I was reading out of an insurance dictionary, you'd tune me out fast. So I explain things in a way that people will actually understand. And when I'm working with clients, I'm making sure that I'm explaining it in a way with stories and things like that they can actually relate to. Because insurance itself, it's boring, but I try to make it not boring. Insurance, it's not about the premiums. That's a factor, but a premium does not matter if you don't actually have the coverage you need. So somebody can be sitting out there saying, well, I have insurance and I'm paying XYZ a year, and that's the number they're looking at. But the real question is, do they have coverage for the things that can actually happen to their business? And what I find in meeting with a lot of clients is, quite frankly, they don't. And it's very routine that I'm meeting with somebody and they tell me about a situation where something wasn't covered. You know, whether it be the work that they did and all of a sudden garage doors were peeling paint or things like that for a painting company, and there was no coverage. And it wasn't that coverage for that doesn't exist, it's that they simply didn't have it. So it's more, you know, about making sure that you have the right coverage for what you actually do, because every business is different. And even using the example of Visual Identity Vault. Visual Identity Vault, sure, they make shirts and things like that we might wear, but that doesn't mean that they should have the same type of insurance as the boutique 2 doors down from me, okay? Yeah, they sell clothes, but they do other things. Insurance is meant to take care of the big stuff, not the little stuff. And what I mean by that is, you know, a $2,500 loss, whether it was that it wasn't covered or was under deductible, that typically is not going to ruin an individual or a business. But not having coverage for something that turns into a $25,000 loss, that absolutely can. Okay. We're going to touch on a couple of things here. Business owners policies, and we're going to go into what that really is here more in a minute. And then at the very end, I'm going to briefly touch on commercial auto, liability umbrella policies, workers' comp, life insurance, and then some of the other types of insurance. But what we're going to focus on here is the business owner's policy. And the reason we're going to focus on that is, and as a way to help everybody relate to it, a business owner's policy, or a BOP, that's essentially the homeowner's insurance or renter's insurance policy of it. So you as an individual, you probably, if you own a home, you have homeowner's insurance. If you rent somewhere, you should or probably do have renter's insurance. And that's really what a BOP is. But so it's the homeowners or renters for a business itself. There's going to be coverage for the owned or leased buildings occupied by the business. And obviously it talks about optional coverages within. And what it means by that is, obviously, if you own the building, you're going to need insurance on the building itself. If you lease the building, and we'll get into a little bit more what options there are for somebody who leases a building, but you're going to have coverage for where it is you actually are. The big part here is the coverage for the business personal property, or stuff. So the stuff that a business has or owns. That includes inventory, and obviously it includes things like office furniture. So it includes the, you know, workstations, computers, and everything right down to scissors and tape dispensers and things like that. But the big piece to that, obviously, can be the inventory. If you have a business, you want to make sure that you have coverage for that inventory, because as soon as it's in your possession, now you're the one covering it. And in a business owner policy, there are different things, as far as I get people all the time that say, well, typically I have $50,000 worth of inventory. However, from, you know, the end of October till the end of January, I might have $75,000. Well, the policies themselves have things worked in there, understanding that you might have a peak season. You have a normal time of year, but then you might have your peak seasons and things like that. And then, of course, there's general liability. It's like you would well, coming back real quick, business personal property, if we're going to relate it to a homeowner's or renter's policy, we've talked about the desks and the inventory and stuff like that. Your homeowner's or renter's policy is covering your beds and your TVs and your knives and forks. And then general liability, same general idea there as with a homeowner's or renter's policy, but just an easy example, customer walks into your office or your store and shelf falls off the wall and hits them in the head. That's what we're talking about with like general liability, okay? And obviously there's numerous other included and optional coverages. Don't have the time that it would take to run through every one line by line here today. This morning I had a meeting with a potential customer who they have a home-based business, and to get through every one of those coverages, it took us about 30 to 45 minutes. So like I said, obviously don't have time for that today and don't want to bore you with all of it. So one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, what kind of businesses should have a BOP? And the easiest answer to this is all of them. And I've kind of spelled out on here exactly why, which is you do all sorts of things, and many of them, at the urging of an accountant or an attorney, such as probably setting up your business as its own separate entity, okay? You've set it up as an LLC or a corporation or a PLLC or all these different things. However, what you've done at that point is, again, it's become its own person. And unless that entity specifically has an insurance policy or is specifically listed as covered on a policy somewhere, it doesn't have coverage. So even if you are that home-based business, and if you do not have a business owner's policy, sure, if somebody, let's say you were a home-based business, but you had somebody come into your house, okay? And so a client came into your house because maybe you have an office there or something like that. And that person walks in and for whatever reason, something happens, they were injured, okay? And obviously, as soon as people are injured, the word attorney gets involved. And at that point, what's happening is the attorney representing that person, they're looking at who are the different entities involved in this. Well, obviously, all right, you're the homeowner, so your homeowner's coverage is covering you personally. However, you were there for a business purpose, and the business itself is one of those that can be named in a lawsuit like that. And so it is very important that each entity that exists is treated like its own separate person, okay? And I hear it all the time. My business is out of my home. I don't need a BOP. And that could not be further from the truth. So a couple of things regarding the BOP as far as it relates to owned and leased buildings versus home-based buildings. On the owned and leased building, as I mentioned earlier, you'll have actual building coverage if you own it. If you lease it, rent it, you're going to have typically what's called tenants improvements and betterments. So for example, where I am here, I have tenants improvements and betterments. I lease the space. However, within that space itself, I don't have to cover the exterior walls or the roof or things like that. However, carpet that's in here, sheetrock that's on the walls, the windows that I have, like behind me here, that's the type of stuff that's included in the tenants improvements and betterments that I need to make sure that I have coverage for. Now, just because you have a lease doesn't automatically mean you need tenants improvements and betterments. Your lease will typically dictate what is needed. And that's one of those things, every time I am working with somebody, if they are leasing a space, my first question almost always is, do you have a copy of the lease? Can you get me a copy of the lease? And 99 times out of 100, the person says, why do you need that? My current agent didn't. Well, it's because the lease will actually have verbiage in there that says what you need to cover or what you don't. And just to come back to my own as an example, no, I don't have to cover the roof and I don't have to cover the exterior, walls of the building. However, my lease dictates that I'm covering the HVAC system. So the giant heating cooling unit that's sitting up on my roof, I am responsible for insuring that. So if your insurance agent has never asked for a copy of the lease, you might want to have a conversation with them, because that's the only way to make sure that you have the proper coverage that is needed there. And then obviously, as we mentioned, business personal property coverage. Visual Identity Vault, if they own screen printing machines and embroidery machines and things like that, obviously they're different than the boutique down from me who's not doing any of that stuff themselves. Sure, they're both selling stuff that we might wear, but they're going to have different types of business personal property coverage. And even within that business personal property coverage, there's numerous different pieces to that. For example, how computers are covered is going to be slightly different than how the inventory of clothing is going to be covered. Okay, and again, obviously we have liability. On the home-based side of it, typically you're not going to have building coverage. And I say typically because there are some exceptions to that. And on a home-based business, though, you still are going to want the business personal property coverage and the liability coverage. And if the business is in a separate structure, meaning, see this a lot, well, we built a detached garage and that's where the business is. If there was a detached garage and that's where the business is, you're not typically going to have any coverage under your homeowner's policy for the garage, regardless of the fact that it's sitting right next to your house, okay? So you will likely need building coverage, as most homeowners policies will not cover the separate structure. A couple of things here. These are straight from a farmer's homeowner's insurance policy. The first one here. This comes back to what I was just talking about. We do not insure separate structures which are intended for use in business or which are actually used in whole or in part for business purposes by an insured or any other person. So again, detached structure that's being used for business purposes might be the garage that was built with the idea of parking the cars in, but now it's being used for business. The coverage does not extend there from your homeowner's policy. And we do not insure separate structures used principally for the storage of business property. So if Tanya and Jay decided that, hey, we're going to have this shipment of, blank t-shirts and sweatshirts, they're going to be sent, we're going to put them in our detached garage. There is not going to be coverage there under the homeowner's policy. That's going to fall under a business owner's policy for that coverage. The last piece there, one can add coverage to a homeowner's policy for specified business pursuits. However, there are exclusions such as, and this is a big one, because I do see people sometimes come in and say, well, my business is listed on my homeowner's policy. Well, the big exclusion there, samples and inventories are not covered, whether raw materials, goods in progress, or finished goods. I have a client right now who does something very similar to what Visual Identity Vault does. And he flat out told me at a given time, he's had up to $35,000 to $40,000 worth of inventory sitting in his garage. Never had a business owner's policy. We're talking shoes and athletic gear and stuff like that. This comes back to kind of the aspect of what businesses should have a business owner's policy. In some form, every business should have its own policy. So real quick, we touched mostly on the business owner policy there. Obviously, I'm going very high level here. Commercial auto. This is one, and it's a conversation that I had again this morning with somebody. We all have autos that we own, and if you are a business owner, how that auto is used, obviously, I have a truck, okay? I drive my truck routinely for business itself. I need to make sure that I have the right coverage so that if I was involved in an accident, that not only am I personally protected, but that my business is protected. And when we're talking about, auto accidents and things like that, if it's a fender bender and, we're talking small dollar amounts, insurance companies they're going to write out the check. They're not going to ask too many questions. However, if you have one of those situations that I refer to as an oh crap kind of moment, where we're talking somebody has actually been legitimately injured, you missed the stop sign, stoplight, and you got them good. What's going to happen in a situation like that is obviously people are going to, when I say people, I'm talking claims adjusters and potentially attorneys, are going to start asking questions. And they're going to start asking not just, what happened, but Hey, where were you headed? Well, I was headed to meet with my client. Oh, so you use your vehicle for business. However, you don't have your personal vehicle listed as business use, and you don't have coverage for the business. Those are things that they start to think about. That's the type of stuff that I'm diving into with people. Commercial liability umbrella policies. I routinely have people say, well, that's not something we need, because liability umbrella policies go in increments of $1 million. Well, when you start talking about lawsuits and things like that, and start looking at what the real exposure of a business is, you might be sitting there with a business that, well, I'm bringing in $40,000 a year, and $40,000 to you doesn't equate to $1 million type of lawsuit. However, especially here in the state of Minnesota, you can be sued for things like future income, okay? So when we start looking at future income over a period of years, it doesn't take long for that $1 million number to start coming into play, okay? Workers' comp, I'm gonna talk about this one really fast, but it's something that if you have even one part-time employee, technically, you're supposed to have it, okay? If you don't have it, and all of a sudden you had a claim, the state of Minnesota will step in and they'll pay it for you, but they'll turn around and assess you the amount of it plus a 65% penalty, okay? Those numbers add up, and they add up really quickly. And when we're talking workers' comp, there's so many things that can come into play that people don't think about, which can be as simple as it started with, well, I was lifting a box and I tweaked my back, okay? And when I throw that example out there, people think big boxes and things like that. Well, yesterday, FedEx dropped off a box for me that was nothing but flyers, 8 inches tall, 12 inches wide, or whatever it is. Well, that thing weighed about, what, 20 pounds probably. It's real easy for somebody to injure something that way, and that to turn into a legitimate workers' comp kind of thing. Life insurance for businesses, way more important than people realize, especially when you're talking about businesses that maybe you have a partnership, or there's 2, 3, 4 owners in a business, but especially, let's just say that partnership where if it was me and Bob and him and I were partners and we started the business together and something happens to one of us, if one of us were to suddenly pass away, what happens to the business, okay? Or let's use the example that both of us were married, okay? And I've passed away. Does Bob really want to be in business with my wife? He didn't go into business with her. So the idea of life insurance, especially with small businesses, is with the idea of a succession plan, making sure that, number one, the business can keep going, and number two, it can keep going in the manner that somebody initially started it for. So numerous types of other insurance, obviously errors and omissions insurance, EPLI, which is like employee practices liability insurance, which is essentially going to cover under types of situations, wrongful termination, sexual harassment, things like that. I've got 7,000 different types of things we could do there and run through, but we're going to skip through that. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Jay, did we have any questions come in? I don't have the chat bar open up here at the moment. Let's see. All right.
Yes, sorry, there was one question, or actually
Yeah,
two.
I see a couple of them. If your business is located in your home, do you need a BOB? Yes. If the business is legitimately a business, then yes. And I sometimes talk about real businesses versus pretend businesses. And what I mean by that is a real business is in the sense that you are actually advertising or saying, this is what I do, and it's what you do for your primary source of income, versus the what I call a pretend business, which would be, for example, you owned a pressure washer and you decided that, for 5 different people over the course of the summer, they were going to pay you something to pressure wash their decks, okay? That's something that it's small, it's minimal, it's not something. But if you if it's a legitimate business, and especially if you've set it up as its own entity for tax or legal purposes, it absolutely needs its own business owner's policy at that point. And it's pretty much a guarantee. You're going to talk, if you talk to an accountant or an attorney, they are going to tell you you should set it up this way. Well, as soon as you set it up that way, like I said, it is its own legal entity, and now it absolutely needs coverage coming from somewhere, regardless of whether or not it's in your home or somewhere else. And then should businesses that have employees who work in office, but with the stay-at-home order, their employees are working remotely, be reassessing their insurance coverage? Absolutely. Obviously, we're getting into some things right now in the sense of, well, business personal property off premises, for example, has different limits than what your typical business personal property does within a policy. So if I had 10 employees and they all have computers, and I had them pack up their workstations and head home. Well, if I'm limited on what business personal property off premises is, and off premises is basically defined as the location you are insured at. So my employee, she takes everything home. That's all business personal property off premises now. So there's one just quick thing to be looking at there. But absolutely, and quite frankly, it's something that a business should be reviewing it. I know, like I said, insurance is not something anybody really enjoys talking about, but at the very least, businesses should be sitting down with their current agent once a year and going through it, because, you know, most businesses have a plan to grow, okay? So if you're covered the same way as you were 5 years ago, if today you're covered the same way and you've had some growth, there's probably some needs that have changed. There's maybe some coverage limits, some sub coverages within that policy that maybe you didn't need 5 years ago, but you probably do now. So absolutely, they should be reassessing, and they should be reassessing annually.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chris. I've put up the slide that has everyone's contact information, how to reach them, websites, emails, phone numbers, things of that nature. If there are any other questions, post them now or just speak up. I appreciate the fact that Julie, Tyler, and Chris took the time to be with us today. This is something I'm looking forward to doing a little bit more often in different formats. Inspire, Collaborate, and Encourage has come about as a way for me to help deal with things in our personal life that have happened with Jay's heart attack, a way to give back and look forward to things. And I'm looking for other people who might want to sit down and chat with me. The guests all today are members of BNI, which is Business Networking International. Jay and I are both in those groups. So if that's ever anything anyone wants to look into, let one of us know. It's done really good for our business. Does anyone else have anything? Comments, questions, feedback?
Chris, Julie, and Tyler, you should all do one-to-ones from your guys' end. If you can, I think just about everybody other than Kim and Mark that are on here, Kim, Mark, and Angie, they're not at BNI, but the rest of us are. So if you guys do a one-to-one, you told us about your business, so.
Good idea. We can leave the room open for a few minutes if anyone wants to chat. Again, thank you for joining us. I was a little bit nervous coming into this because I'm not normally the one that has ideas to do something different. That's usually Jay.
Thanks everybody for joining. Mark,
Thank
how are
you for
you?
putting this on.
I almost called you the other day, Mark, to have you throw a chicken sandwich at me as I drove by, but I wasn't sure if you were open.
Yeah, we're good. Just open at night right now, but we're trying to figure out how to get open on the day shift without picnic tables. But things are good.
What did you say, Julie?
I just said thank you for putting this on.
Oh, no problem. All right. Well, everyone have a great day. Enjoy the weekend. Hopefully it's going to be nice. I guess I really haven't looked at the weather.
Supposed to be chilly. I'm not
Chilly?
real happy about that.
I have to work, so I have a lot of shirts that need to start getting done, which is a good problem to have.
There you go. All right.
It's
Have a good
supposed to get
weekend,
cold
everyone.
enough that
You too.
I put Christmas lights on my peach tree. Keep the blossoms from freezing.
Good idea. Thanks for joining, Kim. I hope you got some good information out of it. You're muted.
There we got her.
I did. I'm going to go and put some more questions together now. It just kind
Awesome.
of gave me a start to some things to be thinking about. So thank
Good
you
deal.
all.
And we will be posting the video on the ICE page, so if you need to refer back to it, it'll be there too.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Stay warm.
Yeah.